Helen Thompson, Councillor Sue Walker, Councillor Pauline Walton, Councillor Sarah Moore, colleague, please, Councillor, can we stop you, please? Councillor Sue Walker, Councillor Pauline Walton, Councillor Sarah Morton, Councillor Barbara Mace, Councillor Anna Key, Councillor Lawrence Brown, Councillor Stephen Pitchers, and Councillor Abdul Kadir. What did I say? Did I? I'm not problem anymore. It's already one of those nights, so let's get on with it. As agreed previously, the number of councillors have indicated they wish to say a few words, 2 minutes, as this is their last council meeting. And can the members concerned please keep their comments to the period of office only? And on that basis, can I first of all call upon Councillor Tony Conception?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I was first elected in 1990, the year of the poll tax. And there are some striking similarities now. We have a deeply unpopular Tory government faced with massive opposition from the public.
I'm stopping you a moment. Steve, look. Sorry. No. It's like someone making their maiden speech. Get the dignity of allowing someone to finish without making little snide comments would really go well for, especially for the people who are leaving. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor, please continue.
As I was saying, there was a deeply unpopular Tory government faced with massive opposition from the public. And Margaret Thatcher, as we all know, was forced to scrap the poll tax. It ultimately led to her downfall and paved the way for the Labour landslide in 1997, led by Tony Blair. Now we have a Tory government that's deeply unpopular. We've had 13 years of austerity, an economy that's on its knees, a cost of living crisis, food banks, warm hubs, and millions in poverty. Our NHS is on the verge of collapse. Our public sector underfunded, with massive opposition from the trade unions in many, many sectors. And we also have the disaster that is Brexit, in my opinion. Lord Mayor, my biggest disappointment is that during my terms of office, we've never had a Labour council under a Labour government. However, I believe that's about to change. I'm confident we will see a Labour administration returned in May this year and a Labour government whenever the general election is held, and the sooner the better. Lord Mayor, being a councillor in this great city has been a privilege and an honour. And the highlight for me was in 2015 when I became the Lord Mayor. As you will agree, Lord Mayor, you see the city in such a different light. You meet the most wonderful people and organisations that make this city a great place to live and work. It was a time that I'll never forget. But Lord Mayor, being a councillor needs the support and help of many people. And I would like to thank my Labour colleagues for their help and support over the years, especially my ward colleagues, Councillor John Prince and Councillor Barbara Murray, the Yew Tree team. We were a great team, and I wish them good luck in May. Finally, Lord Mayor, a big thank you to all our staff, to the democratic services who do such a brilliant work servicing our committees, to our ward officers who work so hard under bigger and bigger workloads, and to all our staff who, despite the challenging circumstances, do a wonderful job. And to our staff in this magnificent town hall who look after us so well. Lord Mayor, we all come to this chamber to do our best for the people of this city. and I hope I have contributed in some small way. And I wish you all well in the future. It's been a privilege and an honour. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Councillor Rosgladden.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. At the beginning of May, I will celebrate 20 years as a councillor for Clubmoor Ward and over 44 years in local government. Shortly before Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister, I started a temporary admin position at Derby City Council. It was supposed to last 3 months, but nobody told me to leave. So here I am, waiting for someone to tell me my time is up. Joining local government at this time turned out to be a bit of a disaster, as that was the time when the Tories decided to slash budgets and bring in austerity for the first time. I didn't think I would see another government as vicious as that Thatcher government, but I was wrong. The past 13 years have seen a vile and sustained attack, not just on local government, but the NHS, the police, the fire service and education. There is not one single part of public service that is working as it should be. The whole fabric of our society is completely broken. Local government has its problems, but I maintain that it is still the best and most efficient vehicle to provide services to people within our communities. I'm supremely grateful for the opportunities that I've had from the minute I was elected. Initially, I was opposition spokesperson on housing, and when we lost all our council housing, I became opposition spokesperson for social care and health, and then chair of that committee. When we took control of the council in 2010, I became the cabinet member for health and social care, and an opportunity to transform that area despite the cuts, but we made the best of what we had. One of the opposition councillors at the last meeting said that Labour had done nothing in adult social care. Before I go, I want to lay on record the achievements that we have made. We closed some of the appalling buildings which originally passed for day centres, which incidentally was the only opportunity for any sort of service for adult social care. We consulted for almost 3 years with all the sectors that we provided services for and asked them what they would like within their service provision. We invested in Sedgemoor, a dementia-friendly day service, which would also provide respite in a familiar setting. The Lib Dems had cloned down the original dementia service. We built the Lime, a state-of-the-art service for disabled adults with a hydrotherapy pool, a cafe, music therapy and training. We invested in the Crown to update the offer for those with mental ill health and completely remodelled service, concentrating on wellness and not prolonged service dependency. Development of the Granby Centre as a reablement hub enables older adults to leave hospital safely until a care package can be found. I won't go on, but that seemed to me a pretty good beginning. I had unique opportunities within this council, and with the support of the Labour group, I became deputy leader, deputy mayor, and finally Lord Mayor, the greatest honour that can be bestowed on anybody within the city. I don't think that's bad for a girl from Derby who originally started as a temp. I have to thank a whole ream of people for allowing me the opportunities to deliver for our city. I'm truly grateful for experiencing working with some amazing officers. The team I work with in adult social care, led by Samir Kalakesh and Andrew there, was second to none. And a shout out for Anne-Marie Labansky, who's also been brilliant. Thank you. The Labour group, I want to thank the Labour group for giving me their support during really, really difficult times. And my family, I never underestimate the price that my family have paid by allowing me to do all these amazing things. And of course, my husband, Roy, what can I say? So, yeah, not much, thanks. Yeah. Our life does not end here. We just move on to another chapter. I have lots of plans for me and Roy. I just haven't told him yet. Gardening. So thank you to all of you for trusting me when things were tough. I'm exceptionally proud of the legacy I leave and my place within that first cabinet, who faced head on the worst that this government could give. Thank you so much, Council.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I suppose I'm not making this decision at a time altogether of my own choosing, but the appeal I was offered tonight was more like a rehearing, not really appeal without adequate representation, clashing with what is the most important council meeting of the year. And I would rather represent my constituents here than attend something which I don't think would have adequately given me the opportunity of representing myself, given some of the dissembling from to the opposition members and the process that I've been through. But I've been a councillor for 11 years in Norris Green. It's been public service is we say these words lightly, but they have real meaning. Certainly for me, it's been an honour to have public services an honour. Not many of us get the opportunity of doing it, and I've tried to fulfil that, I think, into the best of my own ability, with integrity and honesty, even if I've upset people sometimes. I've not done it because I've been dishonest or lack any integrity. It's because of what I believe, and sometimes people need challenging. That includes some of the senior officers that we've had on the council, and some of those that have come and go through the council when I don't believe they're acting in the best interests of the city and the council. I've had it's been amazing time, and as same as Ros and Tony, the members of the Labour group, they know who they are, have been supportive, and I've worked with, have been amazing, and I'll never forget that. And also, you can't do this without the support of officers. I mean, I was fortunate to be cabinet member for Children's Services, and that is an amazing team. I think it's sad, it's a loss. I said it before that Steve Reddy has gone, but him and his team that I was with the other week when he was leaving, I think are brilliant. Brilliant. They are the best in terms of what the city offers, in terms of what they do, and I've been fortunate enough to work closely with. But I'm also proud of the things that I feel that I've contributed to. Not me on my own, but I've made my contribution. And that is to keep our children's centres open. More recently, to keep our one-stop shops open, our libraries open. Introduced the Article 4 to stop the spread of HMOs that are blighting the communities and the wards in our city. The improvement of children's services from a place when it was on the floor to a place where it is now, that we can truly say it's safeguarding the interests of children. Cladding, raising that as a profile, the profile of our local support for those people unfortunate enough to be able to, in a terrible situation, which this government may or may not resolve, it promises, but let's see about the expense, the financial stress that they're in because of the cladding that they've got on their high-rise buildings. But also Norris Green. My first speech here was about Norris Green, and it was after there'd been a fatal shooting in Scar Green. I'd only been elected for 2 months, and there was another one that followed it about 3 months later. That was a time when, we're not going to say it just for the sake of it, but obviously the Boot estate was still derelict at the time. 3,000 people had moved out of the houses. It ripped the heart out of the ward. People were fed up. They wanted to leave. And the things that I asked for and wanted to plan for then, I think, in large respect, we've done. The shootings that were happening on a regular basis no longer happen, touch wood, and hope never will again, return in Norris Green. It is a ward that is settled. It has its issues around poverty, of course, because it's still the people there living in challenging financial circumstances, but is not the place that it was. It's a settled ward, it's transformation, and I feel proud that I've been able to have the opportunity to do that. It's bringing the first play area into the area for 30 years, first skateboard park. The parks are amazing. We have community events where 4,000 people are turning up to. These are major community events in the city. So in concluding, so I've just had a signal from me Lord there. So in conclusion, I came into I came into politics and as a councillor fighting austerity. I wrote a book about it with my brother because I wasn't convinced by the things we were being told. And I am leaving the same with some of the things that we're being told about what we can do, what we can't do in setting the budget are things that we always need to challenge, because there is always an alternative and a different way if we're building our policies and our budgets based on our principles, and mine are socialist principles. So I leave that knowing that tonight's budget is not taken as a step forward, but it isn't taken as a step back, saving all the anti-poverty measures that we've striven so hard to maintain and are still going to be in place. And with that, I'm happy to say that I think I've done a job of work with this City Council, and thank you very much.
Councillor Pam Thomas.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In 13 years, I have, of course, done all the usual things councillors do, ward work, committee work, and I spent some years as an officer in the Labour group. As a disabled person, I have lived experience of the ways in which society works against us. This gives me a perspective that is not commonly understood. Often, disabled people are made to feel we have to fit in or go somewhere else and not to expect things to be done differently. I'll give 3 examples of how I've been instrumental in bringing about changes that will have positive impact for disabled people, showing that things can be done differently. In each case, it's meant others have had to agree to do things differently as well. My first motion to council in 2010 was about ensuring all new homes were more accessible and adaptable than the contemporary standards. Eventually, this was included in the local plan, and despite objections from developers, now all new homes of any tenure have to be physically accessible and adaptable, with 10% being easily adaptable to full wheelchair standard. In October 2018, I was on the Transport Committee of the Combined Authority when the new fleet of trains were about to be commissioned. Although we were told it was not possible to have level boarding, the committee agreed with me, and the chair of the committee, Councillor Robinson, made sure it happened. In 2019, my ward colleagues and I were sent pictures of the children's play equipment, which was to be installed in Croxford Hall Park. Every piece of equipment required the ability to climb or balance. Dan, my ward colleague here, and I refused to accept that. And so we have a pirate ship with access to the ground level deck, where there's a swing and tactile features. It has a ladder and slide for those that can use it. There's also a level access roundabout and a seesaw with extra support. So disabled children and non-disabled children can play together, not separately. My work is based on the social model of disability, working to not perpetuate disabling barriers, be they physical, systemic, cultural, or attitudinal. This has been council policy for 30 years. It's vital that everyone uses this if disabled people are to be included rather than excluded. So thanks to everyone who supported me along the way. In my 29 years as an officer and 30 years as a councillor, it's been an honour and a privilege to be a councillor in our great city, and I won't be far away. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Final, Councillor Lawrence Brown.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As I left the House this afternoon, I was a bit confused state, to be honest with you, because I was thinking that I needed tickets for the Richard and Steve show, but and then I remembered I don't need tickets. It's a free show, and that's that I'm coming to. Fortunately, there's more than one Richard and one Steve in the chamber, so data protection is preserving your not anonymity, as you can guess who I'm referring to. Seriously, anyway, how do you distill 9 years of elected service in just a few minutes. It's difficult. It's even more difficult for me because I've been in the business now for 46 years in terms of the city council. When I first got a job in the council back in 1977, and started the Green Party in Liverpool in 43 years ago in 1980, which was the same month actually the Councillor Crone was born. Would you believe? And also throughout that time, as Councillor Radford will know, I stood in the 1989 European elections, achieving 23,000 votes in the Merseyside West constituency, and so forth. Anyway, the last 9 years, I'm extremely proud to have represented the people and the area that I live in for that period. It's a Greenbank Ward's a great place to live and be active as an elected representative, and I'll always be grateful to those who have assisted me during my terms of office. Started with my commitment to the campaign to save Sefton Park Meadows from the bulldozer, which was tremendously successful as it transpired, and ends with many of our green spaces about to be protected in perpetuity with the Fields in Trust arrangement. Many battles have taken place over well-loved green spaces, and I've tried to engage with as many as I could over my time as a councillor. I'm proud of my many achievements, both here in Liverpool and much wider afield, and will miss that opportunity to engage with people as an elected representative in the future. I'm also proud of the fact that I've cycled or walked to every full council meeting during my term of office. Note, as my friend Colin Feely points out, you cannot get a parking ticket on a bike. I'd like to pay particular tribute to some people I've met on my journey over the last 9 years. The first was a close friend and great campaigner, Chrissy Byrne. Chrissy was a one-off, a fantastic person who took to campaigning like a duck to water. We had a shared love of green spaces that Chrissy took to quite amazing levels, well beyond the protection of Walton Hall Park, which was a great triumph. She is greatly missed by me and many others. I'd also like to pay a particular thanks to Councillor Tom Crone for the close working relationship that we've had and friendship that we've had maintained since 2014 when we both got elected. Indeed, all of the Green Party councillors have been supportive colleagues, and it has been a privilege to work with them. I've also worked successfully with some councillors across the council chamber and pay thanks to those members for the good outcomes we've achieved. I'd also like to pay thanks and tribute to the many community activists in Greenbank and beyond and through the city for their hard work and passion in the community. And finally, my grateful thanks go to the residents of Greenbank Ward who voted for me in 2014 and 2018, giving me the opportunity to serve that community and the city as a whole. As people have pointed out, it's an honour to do so. My political career started with the death of my father in 1979 and ends soon after the death of my mother last year. My family and friends have played an important role in supporting me during that time, and I'm very, very grateful to them for that. This also ends with my current health issue, which is the diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, an incurable blood cancer that will require treatment at some point, but not just yet. I strongly believe green politics to be the future and wish the council well as it moves on from the elections in May. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor, could I just ask you one last time to put your hand together for the 17 councillors, both here this evening and not here this evening, as a round of applause for them all for the work they've done. Thank you. My turn. Make yourself comfortable. Everybody else was limited. Despite the fact that I am still Lord Mayor for another 2.5 months, I've been asked along with the other councillors to address council this evening with my farewell speech. Yes, there was a little chair then, I noticed. Shortly before I came Lord Mayor, I was aware that I'd been invited to attend the European Champions Cup final in Paris. A lifelong red, I jumped at the chance. As with most things in life, though, not everything goes the way that you would like. Yet despite the disappointment of the result, I was on hand to witness the vile acts carried out by thousands of defenceless fans by the French police. Along with many other fans, I was then able to share evidence with the French and UFES investigatory panels, which recently completed their investigations and completely exonerated the fans. We can only hope that the apology received from the French police and UFE is only the start of a protest that recognises the trauma that many fans suffered from that evening and the physical and emotional abuse that they received. It was nothing short of a miracle that no one was killed that day. I have also experienced many other highlights. Meetings and hosting the daughter and granddaughter of Nelson Mandela on their weekly visit to the city was one of the top ones. To sit and listen to those two women talk about their father and grandfather as a person and not a world famous icon will live with me for a long, long time yet. Representing the city on many occasions at the grounds of our two great football teams, the work that our two famous teams, charities carry out, along with the fundraising that the players and management support is something that they should be applauded for, as much of what they carry out and the funds they give are anonymous. Attending the Gay Pride March, hosting the Italian rugby league team as a rugby league fan, who were participating in the Rugby World Cup final, Remembrance Sunday, World Gymnastics at the ACC, meeting and hosting many ambassadors, including the Ukrainian ambassador, attending the services of the many different faiths in our city, Chinese New Year, and of course, the city's representative when it was announced on the One Show that Liverpool was to host the Eurovision Song Contest. I was told that following the live announcement, to see the Lord Mayor jumping up and down like a demented copite and getting smacked in the face by £1 million piece of jewellery was the highlight of the evening. That was also supported closely by the Lady Mayoress Roz, basting her button jackets made great television, I was told. My term is far too short to describe to you the privilege that you gave me of attending many of the local community events held throughout our city. I would, though, like to thank some of you for your invitations to meet many of the hundreds of charities and communities that are so relevant to the well-being of our city. They are the unsung heroes we know so well, but we really know so little about. But they spend all their time helping and supporting their communities and subsequently have very little time to shout about the vital work that they do. Let me say on their behalf then, that they are the lifeblood and the beating heart of our city. They ask for very little, but do so much and are so very vital to this city and their own communities. Along with many other councillors this evening, I will be retiring as a councillor at the end of this term. I joined the council back in 1982 when I was elected as a Labour member for Club Moor Ward. I was then re-elected in 1986 before being surcharged and removed from office by then the Thatcher government. All-out elections were then held 6 weeks later, and a Labour majority was retained with a much larger majority. I'm not making reference to this in a party political way, but as a reminder to whatever government sleeps in Westminster, the people of this city have an unbreakable, independent spirit, and they will not be dictated to by anyone, and long may it continue, and that you support that spirit. I returned to the council in 1990 as a social worker at District A after gaining a degree at the Liverpool John Moores University. I continued as a social worker until I was elected as a full-time convener and later as chair of the city's Joint Trade Union Committee, a position I held until my retirement in 2010. I then had the privilege again of being selected and as a councillor, and I was selected and gained county ward. During those 40 years, I have seen this council from all angles, as a resident, employer, employee, trade union officer, councillor, and latterly as Lord Mayor. And despite the many problems this council has faced, many of them emanating from a central government, I believe the majority of councillors enter this chamber with the intention of doing their utmost for our city and their communities, and it is my hope that you will all continue to do so. Although I will only be here for one more council meeting, many of you will not be. So let me take this opportunity to thank you all for your support during my time as a councillor and Lord Mayor. And whether you remain or leave, let me wish you the best of luck in whatever path you now envisage for yourself, whether it is that new role you look for when you leave this council or whether you continue. In conclusion, let me take this opportunity to thank all those council officers who have guided and supported me through my time as a councillor and Lord Mayor, with special thanks to tourism and culture team, and as already been mentioned by others, to the fantastic town hall staff who have supported me so much during the year. Many people talk about the backroom staff that we hear nothing about. Then let me tell you, the people here and in other departments aren't backroom. They do a great job, and without them, it will collapse. My final comments are to my family, both past and present. Without whose support, I would not have completed my 40 years in this organisation or my 50 years as a Labour Party member. I thank my children for their continued support, despite, according to them, rising at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting dragged out of bed with a promise of a bacon butties if they delivered an early morning leaflet on the election day before attending school. Let me tell you, these myths flourish. It was 6 o'clock. Also, my first wife, Irene, who until her sudden death in 1986 had borne the weight of bringing up our 4 children, whilst working part-time to allow me to continue to save the world. I owe her so much. My love and gratitude also applies to my current wife, Ros, who in our early years struggled to put back together someone who was desolate and lost. Thanks to her patience, perseverance and love, I'm able to stand before you today as your departing Lord Mayor. Unlike Boris Johnson, this is not an hasta la vista baby moment, but a genuine goodbye and a sincere thank you to you all of you who had the confidence to allow me to be the representative Lord Mayor and fair citizen of the city close to 12 months ago. I hope I haven't let you down. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Can I now invite the Mayor of Liverpool to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. On behalf of our city, I'd like to thank all the long-standing councillors, all our councillors for years of dedicated service to Liverpool. The thing that makes people in Liverpool so special is our deep sense of wanting to look after each other. And as councillors, you've gone one step further and put this into action. You are the people on the ground who understand the needs of our communities and have their voice. It can be a thankless task at times, but also incredibly rewarding. It can be extremely frustrating, but it can also be joyous. You get an insight into the lives of people of our city, their challenges, their hopes, their worries, And as a councillor, you get a very unique chance to have an impact and try to make the best changes that you can. For some of our residents, you are their lifeline, you are their hope and their connection. And because of you, the residents' lives in our city can be better. So never underestimate the difference that you have made. And all of you here today should be proud of the good you have done and achieved for our residents during your time as councillors. I'd also like to talk about the Lord Mayor, if I could. I'd like to give a special mention about Roy Gladden and the Lord Mayor who was standing down, having been a dedicated servant to the people of Liverpool for over 40 years, which is a real big achievement. I've known Roy for many years. He's also always been rooted in community and dedicated to making life better for others. He's been through a lot throughout his life, which has enabled him to connect with people and understand their worries and concerns. What I really like about Roy is that he lives by his values. He's principled, straight talking, and not afraid to tell it like it is. His family describe him as bossy and say his favourite line is, "I'm not arguing, I'm just debating," isn't it, Roy? His time as Lord Mayor has made some historic events. Roy has the honour of reading the formal proclamation of the accession of King Charles III. And as you heard Roy talk about the Champions League, I was really proud of Roy standing up and speaking so eloquently on behalf of the fans and on behalf of Liverpool in a number of interviews that he gave after that dreaded match. And I'm also delighted that Roy has been involved in the run-up to hosting of Eurovision. He's always been really supportive of trying to support Ukraine from the beginning. Before Eurovision was on the table, Roy had done an awful lot to raise money and funding for our Ukrainian family in Liverpool, and also wrote to our city sister of Odessa last year. I know Roy will work to ensure the people of Ukraine are in the hearts and minds of everyone. Personally, Roy and Ros have given me a lot of support during his time as Lord Mayor, always coming having a chat with me, keeping me updated, but also just being friendly and offering me that support. And I've been really grateful for that, Roy. It's really been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you. If we could give you another round of applause. If I can, Roy, I just have an announcement, a couple of announcements to make, if that's all right, Lord Mayor. Okay.
Nice things you said, then you can have an hour. Go ahead.
No, thank you. Won't take an hour. Eurovision is well and truly kicked off. We had a meeting today of 500 stakeholders. We had some announcements of just some of the events, but the city is going to be taking over for the first 2 weeks in May in a complete Eurovision party and takeover. I advise you to book your time off work, get your friends to stay in your house. It really is amazing, some of the stuff that is happening. All our commissions have been done in conjunction with Ukrainian people. I think we had over 500 applications for 24 commissions, and 19 of them have been done with Ukrainian artists. We've got some wacky stuff. We're having a blue and yellow submarine outdoor underwater sea disco, and that says something about Liverpool, doesn't it? And I'm also delighted to announce that Liverpool City Council has been shortlisted for 3 prestigious LGC awards. Claire McColgan for her outstanding contribution for the role in Eurovision, Culture Liverpool and Public Health for Culture, Arts and post-lockdown, and LSSL for our fantastic underground super bins. But one final thank you I'd like to give is Ian Duncan. I can't believe it's only been 6 months, Ian. You've really supported us through a very, very difficult period. Ian is leaving. Is it today? Is it your last moment? Got another day, one more day. But without the support of Ian over the last 6 months, I don't know where we'd be. You've really been invaluable to us, and I really thank you. I know Teresa made you do it, but I'm really grateful that you've done it, Ian. Thank you.
Can I invite Councillor Liam Robinson?
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. And on behalf of the Labour Group, I just want to say a few words of thanks accordingly. First and foremost to yourself, Lord Mayor Roy. You've been exceptional as Lord Mayor because you're an exceptional ambassador for this city. You're passionate about this city. You're proud about this city. And even when you're being firm, as you often are chairing these meetings, you always do it in a really friendly manner. You are the very best of what Liverpool is all about, mate. So you've been great as a Lord Mayor. From a Labour group perspective, because obviously this is your last formal meeting as a councillor, I know we see you as effectively the father of our group because of that long-standing nature in the, I don't mean it biologically, but because of that long-standing nature across the Labour movement, whether that's in the trade unions, whether it's on this council over many, many years. And I know there's many members of our group who often seek out your sage advice, your wise counsel, because you're not just principled and you're always principled, you're always practical as well, mate. So I know our group will miss you massively. And it's a great opportunity to wish you and Ros a very long, a very happy, a very healthy retirement and a great future ahead of you accordingly. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all of those members that are retiring at this council meeting. I'm not going to name check every individual, but I think it's always really important that we take the opportunity to express our gratitude to all of those members who frankly end up dedicating so much of their lives for the good of our city and the good of all of our residents. So for all of those that are standing down, we wish you the very, very best for the future. But finally, there's also one other person for whom it is the final council meeting for them that we really need to put on record our deep gratitude and appreciation for what they've done, and that's our Mayor, Joanne. Because, Joanne, you've made a fantastic and huge contribution to this council and to this city during your time in office. And I believe really strongly, not just the Labour Party, but this council and this city owe you a huge debt of gratitude. You stepped up as mayor at one of the most difficult times that this council has had. And you've had to deal with some really difficult stuff that you inherited, but you've done it with dignity, you've done it with poise, you've done it with determination and diligence to achieve the things that you've done. So we really owe you that debt of gratitude, not just for dealing with the difficult stuff, but some of the fantastic proactive and positive stuff that you've done as well. Embedding things like the triple lock across the council, really being serious about diversity in the way that we have been. And crucially as well, as you just mentioned, winning Eurovision for this whole city and the huge opportunities and legacies that will give this city. There is so much that you should be proud of during your term of office. Equally as well, as the UK's first ever directly elected black female mayor, this city made history, but you made that history, and I hope you are really, really proud of that. So on behalf of all of our group and party, and I hope I speak for everyone here right across the council and the city, thank you for everything that you've done and wish you all the very, very best for the future.
Councillor Richard Kemp.
My Lord Mayor, I hope you all appreciate how difficult this little few words is going to be for me. Being nice to so many Labour councillors in one meeting is not something that I've ever done before, but who knows, I might yet have the opportunity to do it again. My Lord Mayor, having said that, I want to start off with our own retiree, Barbara Mace. Many of you won't will know her, but won't know the other Barbara, Barbara Collins, who for 2 decades were the very face of Walton, not only inside Walton, but also inside that council. 2 Barbaras, and they recruited a lad who's now done 20 years service, who is now our whip, to carry their bags and do what he was bloody well told. But they made a real impression on this council, never seeking great office, but always giving great service to their constituents and to this council. My Lord Mayor, I must say, I feel sorry for you from what I heard from your wife before. The plans she's got for you, I don't know whether you're any good at decorating or hanging wallpaper or redesigning the garden. He's useless, is he? Well, I think you're going to be learning all those skills in the near future with no gavel. I made the mistake of giving Erica a gavel, which she has been known to bring out occasionally just to keep me in order at home. But I've known you for more than 40 years. We've always been on the other side of the chamber, except for when you were here, as you rightly said, wearing your trade union hat. But I've always regarded you as a gentleman. One of those places, to use the phrase that you apparently use, I'm not here to argue, I'm here to discuss. You and I have had many disagreements, but I hope always in the courteous way, and the courteous way in which you have controlled and led this council as Lord Mayor. You have given us tremendous service, and I'm sure the appreciation for that service goes way beyond this council chamber. Now then, what can I say about Mayor Anderson? Well, I could be entirely curmudgeonly and say that compared with the other Mayor Anderson, you've actually played a blinder, but that would be setting a very low bar indeed today. But I would concur with much of what Liam said. You came in at a very difficult time. Any mayor would have had difficulty coming in with the commissioners arriving shortly after, with a whole series of legal, organisational, bureaucratic, criminal, not criminal against you, but potential criminal activities within the council. I think you have made a very strong impression on this city by the way you've behaved in this council chamber, treating everyone courteously, even me, despite much provocation. You have done your best to bring this council forward. Again, I would have disagreement with some of the things you've done, but I'd never have disagreements with the way that you've tried to do it, the way you've conducted yourself, which has been so much in the belief of your city that you love and which I know you've been as proud to represent as I have. And lastly, join in the thanks to all the councillors who are standing down. Some of them have wanted to go and are going happily, skipping into retirement. Some didn't want to go, and some more will go on May the 4th, who were perhaps hoping to be here next time. My Lord Mayor, being a councillor is not an easy job. People think you are highly paid. They think you can do everything. They think you should always be available to them at all times. And all we can do is to do our best in very difficult circumstances. And that's why it's important sometimes that we recognise that other people in other parties are as committed, although albeit with slightly different views than we have, to this city as we are. And sometimes we do need to defend all of us against those, particularly who think that you can convert the world on Twitter, who know every answer, who can make every comment going, but actually never do a hand's turn except leave their couch, except when Roger Phillips was there, ring up the Roger Phillips show, say, hey, Roger, do you know what they're doing now, like? So I apologise for the Scouse accent. I've been here 50 odd years now. I still haven't mastered it. So, my Lord Mayor, I would pay tribute to all those of all parties leaving the council chamber today. And I too thank you for that magnificent work that you've done, unsung heroes in your community, trying to keep this city together, trying to serve your communities, and above all, placing your allegiance not to your party, although that's important to all of us, placing your allegiance to this great city, which all of us are honoured to represent. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Councillor Radford, can I invite you to speak?
My Lord Mayor, members of the council, I think it's probably fair to say you've been impeccable in your impartiality and robust as your stewardship of these meetings throughout the year. I think we should all give you credit for that and total respect. I was chuckling a little earlier when one of the members said about the King Charles Proclamation, because I remember myself and Councillor Lake were in the queue to leave from the St Nicholas, and I think at one point you think you'd lost Ros, and he looked slightly disorientated, and I think we found you redirected Loz, and I think that says something about the fact you're an impeccable partnership, and there's no way we could thank you for your service without thanking Roz's service as well. You've both been absolutely meticulous in your public duties. You've added credibility to the council, and you've acted as champions and custodians for the city in every respect. And on behalf of your neighbours in Tewbrook, we wish you both a happy retirement with great credibility. Can I thank the Mayor Anderson for her service? And in many ways, I know it's often popular to say councillors don't keep their election pledges, but you've kept one pledge. You've abolished yourself, and that's been true. And in many ways, the most telling part of your service will be in the couple of years forthcoming. We will know the benefits or not of your stewardship as the years progress. I know it has been a difficult time for you personally, and I think we should all respect that and wish you well in whichever role you take on from there on in. On the question of so many councillors leaving, I'm not going to prejudge why every member is leaving or not, but it does bother me that we have so many people and so much talent leaving the council chamber. I suppose it's the personnel manager in me that if you had a skilled profession and you had so many skilled staff leaving, you ask your question, why? There will be always some turnover, and that's good. And I think the Collar report and the boundary review have been, in some ways, disastrous on the impact and recognition that we have for councillors elected. The idea that every councillor should now have, in effect, 30% more voters to look after, in many areas not be in a team but on their own in social isolation, I think has contributed destructively to the number of councillors notwithstanding. Now, I know there's individual circumstances that are different, but I think it's fair to say it. I know how we all will actually spend time supporting the work of all councillors, which will now be harder, particularly those in single member wards. I think the stress on individuals is going to be greater. So I say thanks to those people served, but I also worry about the stress on those members who are going to be served in the new arrangements, which I think are absolutely disastrous. And I don't make no apologies for saying it. I wish all the individuals well. I think we do in this city and many other cities, not just in Liverpool, underrate the hours and commitment individual councillors do. If they were counted by hours, you'd probably have a pay rate less than a cleaner or the car wash. And with all the responsibilities that entails, I think that is a sad indictment of the system. Lord Mayor, you've been meticulous. I wish you every happiness in your retirement. And if you and Rez are ever passing the Hope Centre, please come in, have a little bite of tea, cup of coffee. We'd be delighted to see you as good neighbours you've always been. God bless you all.
Councillor Tom Crone, could I invite you to speak, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just on behalf of the Green Group, just sincere thanks for being an exemplary representative of this city, here locally with the local charities, but also, as you said in your speech, internationally. I think you've done a fantastic job representing us. It was also really interesting to hear about your long association with this council, so thanks for that. As chair of these meetings, you've always been a good laugh, you've always been fun, but you've also been firm and genuinely tried to get a bit of order in this council. And I think things have slightly improved on your watch. So so congratulations on that front. And Also, thanks to Mayor Joanne, as Councillor Radford said, you came in at a very difficult time. The work isn't complete, but on your watch, things have started to stabilise and got into the right direction. So thank you for your service and enjoy life after politics. Thank you.
Councillor Alan Gibbons, can I ask you to speak?
I think, Roy, you were one of the first people I met at County when we started campaigning. I was a new, young, vibrant member of the Labour Party at the age of about 64. And I must say, when there was quite a lot of people who didn't welcome us, despite us having slightly different views of the Labour movement, yourself and Ros always did. And your friendship and support has always been appreciated. I'd like to also basically pay tribute to some of the causes that you've dedicated yourself towards, particularly the veterans who don't always get the sort of reward from this country that they should. Whatever you think about the wars they're sent in, they put their lives on the line. They suffer and they should be treated with respect. And when we take a look at, my colleague Alfie Hinks reminded me of your support for the Merchant Navy, and much of what I've just said about the veterans goes for the merchant seafarers who spend so long away in a very difficult job. And the final thing I'd like to say is I pay tribute to your support for public service in general. And I think the last appointment you had was welcoming the Palestinian ambassador. And at a time when some in the Labour movement have gone out of their way to try and shy away from the cause of justice for the Palestinian people, I'm proud that this city gave a welcome on the Mersey. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Colleagues, thank you very much for what everybody said, both for myself and I think on behalf of Mayor Anderson and those colleagues who will be leaving but are not there with us this evening. So again, thank you. And now we move on to the next item of business, declarations of interest. City Solicitor.
Members are advised that the obligation to pay the council tax is not a disclosable interest under the Code of Conduct for the purposes of setting the council tax or budget, as a dispensation has been granted to all members for this purpose. A similar dispensation is granted for the setting of the scheme of members' allowances later in this meeting. However, under section 106 of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992, if any member has an amount due in respect of council tax that has not been paid for at least 2 months after it became payable, then it must be declared now, and you cannot vote on any matter concerning the setting of the council budget or council tax. Does any member wish to make a declaration of arrears of council tax which have been due for a period of 2 months or more? No. Do members have any further interest to declare which directly relate to any of the remaining items on this agenda? No.
Thank you. Can I move the minutes of the extraordinary and ordinary council meetings held on 25th of January 2023 be approved? Is that agreed? Can I have the... At this stage, I propose that we vary this evening's order of business so that we can firstly deal with the appointment of a new chief executive and other statutory chief officer roles set out on agenda items 4 and 5. Is that agreed? Thank you. Can I invite Mayor Joanne Anderson to advise full council of the appointment of the new chief executive, head of paid service and returning officer.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm delighted to welcome Andrew Lewis to the appointment of Chief Executive of Liverpool City Council. Andrew is local to North West, having spent his childhood near Ormskirk. He did remind us that he remembered Keith Chegwin, of all people, being from Liverpool. Shows a good sense of humour. He has a very strong track record of working across all areas of local, regional and national government. And throughout his career, I know he's going to be a real asset to the organisation. One of his priorities will be to support and oversee the delivery of council modernisation and transformation agenda, which will enable us to deliver services that better meet the needs of our communities, not just today, but in the months and years ahead.
Any comments? Reid? Thank you. Item 5, designation of interim statutory chief officers, which is, can I invite Mayor Joanne Anderson to advise full council of the designation of an interim statutory chief officers?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Barry Scar has been appointed as Interim Strategic Director of Finance. Barry brings a wealth of experience of being a Finance Director at Northamptonshire County Council and Bradford Metropolitan Borough Council. Barry will bring much needed stability to the organisation, building on the good work done by Ian and his team over the last few months. Susie Johnner has been appointed as Interim Corporate Director of Children and Young People Services, and Susie brings experience to this role, having previously served as Director of Children's at Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council and Director of Children's and Adults in Darlington Borough Council. With an Ofsted expansion imminent, Susie will bring much needed leadership and resilience to the service.
My lord.
I'll take Councillor Radford first, then yourself.
My Lord Mayor, I don't know any of the details about the individuals, and my comments not relating to the individuals. But I wonder if the Mayor could give us any guidance. We're told about creating leadership and stability, but we're having appointments only made for 6 months. Is there any prospect that those senior roles, which are important, would be stabilised for a longer period? It doesn't sit.
I forgot to do a leaving speech. I had written it. One of the things I wanted to mention was the impact that interims have had for us as an organisation. In order to create stability while we recruit for a permanent position, people have been appointed on an interim basis, and without interims over the last 2 years, we wouldn't be where we are, which is literally the next Commissioner's report is positive about the direction that we're going in as a council. So when we appoint on a temporary basis, it's because we need an interim whilst we are recruiting for the permanent role.
Councillor Kemp.
Mine just follows up the last comment of the Mayor. Because I'm on the Appointments Committee, I do know that there is a programme for filling these vacancies on a permanent basis. And perhaps the Mayor would like to share that with those councillors who aren't on that committee, to give people reassurance of a move to a more permanent system and staffing.
We've been looking at a restructure. It's taken a very long time. It's taken nearly 2 years to agree with the commissioners, with our corporate leadership, what a restructured organisation would look like. You might have seen a number of positions being advertised recently. We have got the go-ahead a couple of months ago, and we've been recruiting as quickly and as fast as we can. If somebody leaves, we have to have an interim in that position, but we are well underway of recruiting some very senior roles within the organisation, and we've had some great responses. So we are getting to a position now where the next 6 months we should be in a much more stable position as having the permanent people in post.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Is that agreed? Thank you. We can now turn to the budget recommendations for 2023-2024, which comprises the following report items set out on pages 42 to 428 of the agenda and 513 and 523 of the supplement. They are A, revised general fund budget and MTFS. B, statements and robustness of estimates and adequacy of reserves and provisions. C, list of 2023-24 to 2025-26 budget savings proposals. D, transformation and flexible use of capital receipts. A, consultation and engagement summary, cumulative impact assessment. F, fees and charges policy and schedules of 2023-24 fees and charges. And G, scrutiny committee's feedback and response. And H, capital strategy. Can I invite Mayor Joanne Anderson to move the budget recommendation for 2023-24?
My Lord Mayor, before the Mayor speaks, I just want to seek some clarification from you on the Lord Mayor's note, which says that we can speak on the substantive motion on the first amendment.
Sorry, Richard, where are we talking about?
This is your note, budget debate.
On the amendments? Or?
Well, that's the point I'm asking. Is after the second amendment on this, if we want to make a speech on the budget as a whole, do you want us to do it according to this in one of the amendments, or deal with the amendments and then make it? So I'm just seeking clarification of how you want us to proceed.
We hope to continue with what we started at the last council meeting and what we've done on the one before, which is to take the amendments at the same time to enable then for people to speak fully on both the main motion and then the amendment, rather than sort of waiting, do I speak now or do I come on the next one? This will enable members. What we will do, I'll take the main motion. I'll then take the amendments and seconders. When they're finished, it'll be open for debate on both main motion and amendments. And then once we finish speaking, we'll then take as we normally do, voting on the amendments and then the main motion. Everybody understand that? Yeah, thank you. Mayor Anderson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. 2 weeks ago, we have published our final budget proposals for 23-24. Setting this year's budget has undoubtedly been the biggest challenge during my term as Mayor, but also for local authorities across the country. Against the backdrop of cost of living crisis, soaring inflation and our services being needed more than ever, finding 49 million in savings has been an enormous task. For over a decade, our funding, like many other local authorities, has been decimated under Tory rule. We have lost £500 million since 2010 in funding, and each household has lost £111. And despite this, £1,100. Despite this, we have been expected to continue providing our critical and valued public services on just a quarter of the funding we were previously receiving. For our residents, these services don't just contribute to their standards of living. For many, they are a real lifeline. When our communities are struggling, it is local councils that are expected to step up to fill the gaps created by government. And as a Labour group, year after year, we have prioritised protecting and supporting the most vulnerable residents in our city. We have made sure that despite huge challenges, we've been able to protect vital services such as the council's benefits maximisation team and one-stop shops. We have also protected our council tax support scheme, the 100% council tax relief for foster carers, and the support we provide through Liverpool's citizen support scheme and discretionary housing payments. Even after the huge savings have been delivered as part of the budget, we will still be expected to find further savings of almost 20 million in 24 and 25 and 17 million in 25 and 26. These kinds of cuts are simply not sustainable. They have far-reaching and long-standing consequences for communities around the country as local authorities struggle to keep heads above water. The acute irresponsibility of Tory governments and clear lack of any kind of moral compass is destroying lives. Unless they start funding councils fairly, local authorities will simply be unable to continue, and this will be the Tory legacy. Liverpool, like the rest of the country, urgently needs a Labour government who fund the vital services councils like ours provide. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Before we move to consider the budget recommendation, I will ask the City Solicitor to remind members of the voting requirement and process which will apply.
Can I advise members that in accordance with the requirements of Standing Order 25.2 and 16 of the Council Constitution, and as required by legislation, a named or card vote will be conducted in relation to the budget recommendations and the two amendments separately.
Everybody clear on that? Thank you. All members have previously been notified by letter and in writing that the deadline for the submission of budget amendments was 12 noon on Friday, 24th of February. This is in accordance with the requirements of Standing Order 7.3. This deadline is very clear. I will not therefore be accepting any further amendments. Can I advise that 2 budget amendments have been received? The Chief Finance Officer, City Solicitor and Monitoring Officer and the Head of Governance advised that the amendments are both lawful. Can I advise that the first amendment has been received from Councillor Tom Crone, which is attached as Appendix B to this note. Formal confirmation has also been received that the first amendment is seconded by Councillor Steve Radford. Can I therefore invite Councillor Tom Crone to speak to the amendment? Councillor Crone, on this occasion with the budget, for movers, you have 10 minutes maximum to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Once again, we're here to set a budget containing millions of pounds worth of cuts forced upon us by central government. This year, those cuts come in the context of a cost of living crisis, which is pushing millions of people into fuel poverty, food poverty, and even worse. As this country staggers from the nightmare of the pandemic into a present defined by Putin's war of aggression in Ukraine, it seems like the government is determined to do as little to support people here as possible. In this context, it is more important than ever to do whatever we can as a council to protect the most vulnerable people in our society. I absolutely acknowledge the pressure on the council finances, and I know there is no easy way to balance the books in the face of the ongoing austerity. But we have to focus on ensuring that those most in need are protected. That is why there was an almost universal outcry when the initial budget proposals emerged, which included cuts to things like the benefits maximisation service, council tax relief for foster carers, and discretionary housing payments, to name but a few. These are measures which are put in place to protect those experiencing the most severe financial pressure, and in the middle of a cost of living crisis is not the time to remove them. To the credit of those involved with the budget setting process, most of those services have been reinstated, but some of them are still to be removed, namely the discretionary housing payments and the Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme. It says within the budget that they'll continue using the government's Housing Support Fund. However, that is a fixed amount that is allocated to Liverpool anyway as additional support. And that's because of the special circumstances we're facing in the cost of living crisis. So that money should not be used to fund existing spending, or it's not going to provide noticeable relief for people. Furthermore, this funding is only covering the coming year, and funding will not be available in future years. So to protect the support in the long term, we need to agree to our amendment. To stop these cuts requires us to tolerate a slightly lower than planned increase in the reserves. The overall reserves will be significantly increased still, but not quite to the level planned. We believe that this year especially, while people in Liverpool are faced with astronomical increases in their food, fuel and every other essential item, we should not be prioritising increasing the reserves over supporting them. We have come a long way to improve this budget compared with earlier drafts. The opposition to the cuts was not just from opposition members. Many councillors from the ruling group also objected, and it was this genuine all-party consensus that enabled us to get to this point. I'm hopeful that tonight, councillors from any party and none can once again come together to agree this final improvement, which will ensure this council remains committing to supporting those most in need in Liverpool. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Radford, you are seconding this. Do you wish to speak now?
My Lord Mayor, can I speak to both the amendments? Is that what you'd prefer? Would you like us to speak to both the amendments in just one? Okay, I just wanted to take your guidance. Fine. I really would echo all the comments of Councillor Tom Crone. It's not an easy budget, and nobody's trying to throw stones at the administration. But I have to say, do we really need to ramp up the reserve as much as being proposed at a time when people will have so much difficulty paying the council tax and paying the bills? I have to say, I think it's an illusory saving, because if we cut the funds to those people who are struggling to pay their bills, we increase the propensity, people won't be able to pay the council tax or the council's charges. We're actually, if I have to say it, feeding poverty. And I listened to Councillor Barry Krishna's speech very early, and I was very moved, and you can actually tell the real conviction in the voice about helping the most vulnerable in the most difficult of times. Well, this amendment is about, don't artificially ramp up the reserve because it looks good or feels good. We don't need to. What we do need to do is help people through an economic downturn, which has been out of all proportion to our expectations. And we do that, we're actually helping the viability of the council. Because if people can't pay the bills, can't pay the council tax, we'll end up with having more arrears being written off. Yeah. And we all know the storm that causes. So I'd ask members of all parties to support the amendment as we have jointly tabled amongst 3 of the opposition groups. And I think that also sends a message out that opposition parties from different traditions are prepared to work together and look to create common and constructive amendments. We can't be in a position of overturning the whole budget. No opposition party has ever been in that position. We don't have the luxury of the budget working party. And whatever we think of the previous Mayor Anderson's role, he did actually encourage the participation of opposition members and that membership. And I know I and your good lady, but dare I say it, would often debate on issues and bring forward some consensus. We don't have that luxury, and therefore this is the only opportunity we have to influence the budget in a constructive way, and we hope it does get all members' support. Put the words of caring for the more vulnerable into your vote tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I advise that the second amendment has been received from Councillor Gibbons, which is attached as Appendix C to this note. Formal confirmation has also been received that the second amendment is seconded again by Councillor Steve Radford. Can I therefore invite Councillor Gibbons to speak to the second amendment?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'll speak on the main motion as well as part of the same speech, if that's okay. Oh, you want me to do that later? Yeah, just the amendment. I mean, as councillors, our most important place is in the community, is working with residents, trying to defend them, protect them from the vagaries and the attacks of this Tory government. And the only tool where we can freely access funds and address them to good causes in the community without recourse to any pleading or planning with officers is the MNF. And that means we can address some of the popular causes and resources in the community. People expect to see us provide skips. They expect us to look for good quality community groups. One example in Warbreck is the Opening Doors project that brings together children, that does Santa Claus rides, that does Easter Bunny stuff and Mother's Day, and reduces the isolation that so many people feel because of poverty. And these things are vital. And every time we provide support for a community centre or any community group, we are rewarding the people in our communities and we are building links. And that's what a local councillor should be doing. And that cost in this budget is £48,000. Now that really, in a budget that the scale of this council is a whisker, is a straw in a bale of hay. And I think it would be absurd to actually cut 5%, 5%, 10% over the next 3 years of the only tool that we've got for immediate support for our communities. It would be churlish, unnecessary, but doesn't even approach the changing the reserves. So I would ask all members in this chamber to support the M&F, the most useful thing that all of you have at hand immediately, and don't allow a cut that's not necessary and, to be honest, is fatuous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Radford, you wish to second it?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. And second the amendment. I've earlier made some comments which weren't personalised, but made some generic comments about the role of councillors and why I feel very concerned that so many councillors are leaving the council chamber. And here we are cutting back on the only thing they can use of direct benefit to their communities. I'll use an example, but I didn't vote on it because I have a financial interest. My two colleagues supported £9,800 to create a youth hub, which I gladly showed Councillor Alan Gibbons the other night. But leveraged in a funding package of £95,000 to create community facilities. Our ward colleagues wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have the neighbourhood fund. We have funded in the Tubrook ward food projects to train youngsters and kids and younger parents to do cooking classes in Newsham Park, attracting people into the park. We used £1 of council neighbourhood fund to bring £3 of external funding into the community to achieve a health and well-being and healthy living target. Without neighbourhood funds, we wouldn't be able to do it. So tonight, just to share off £48,000, you're going to undermine the work of ward councillors, which will be more difficult because in the single member wards, you won't have much money anyway to fund under the new disastrous boundary review. You'll have single members trying to work out how to use their money or pool their money, and we still haven't talked through the transition. You think the idea would have created having a sensible council who worked out what they're going to do before it happens, rather than work out after the event. Those members who are individual members will have far smaller pots to leverage in any money for any project, whether it's in their ward or in partnership with neighbouring wards. It is a penny pinching exercise to make it look good. I couldn't think of any more short-sighted or penny pinching than this. Please defend the role of ward members rather than just talk about it.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I now ask sorry, did you want a point of order? No. Can I then now ask those members who wish to contribute in the whole debate to indicate, keep your hands up, so the officers can take it on both sides of the chamber, can take your name, so we get as many people in as possible. So you just raise your hands now, and you take this side, please, Richard. Peter, will you take this side? So we know we've got everybody.
Check on.
I will read the names out, so anybody who thinks they're missed off, please indicate immediately.
Richard Kemp.
Councillor Kemp, Makinson, Klein, Wallace, Mitchell, Nib, Hinks, McAllister, Cummings and Clone. For this side of the chamber, is that everybody who had the hand up? Is there anybody else? No, thank you.
Mumby,
I got this side, we've got Councillor Mumby, Small, Parsons and Corbett. Anybody else on this side of the chamber? No, so colleagues, you know who the speakers are. I hope we get everybody in, so we'll start now. For Councillor Makinson.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
And can I just, before you start, Collins, as with a budget meeting, you have 5 minutes, but hopefully to get everybody in so you does it. If you don't need 5 minutes, please don't try and fill it. Anybody, okay? Thank you.
Seeing I'm not interrupted, I'll do it in 3. Right, so I'm speaking on the main motion. I almost don't know where to begin on starting what's wrong with this budget in just 3 minutes. But firstly, let me deal with the reserves. This time last year, the Labour administration was in civil war over boosting reserves by 10 million. Yet in the past year, they've squandered 17.5 million in unplanned spending. Unplanned spending, such as the electricity contract fiasco, a disaster that would have actually cost us twice as much if it were not for the government stepping in with a price cap on commercial energy prices. That 17.5 million now needs to be replaced. And we have a further £5.5 million to find to increase the reserves even further. Altogether, that's almost half the budget gap we have to fill today. At a time when families across Liverpool are choosing between heating and eating, they are being hit with a 5% council tax rise, every penny of which is being used to cover Labour's misspending over the past year. But it doesn't stop there. This budget writes off £228 million of bad debt. 228 million. Debts such as council tax from private landlords, because this council has been treating private landlords that happen to be over 70 as vulnerable council taxpayers. 7 million of business rent written off because this council got rid of the people who actually collect the rent. You couldn't make it up. All in all, if these debts had been collected, we wouldn't be looking at a 5% council tax rise. We wouldn't even be looking at a 0% council tax rise. We would have had enough money to say to every household in the city for this year, when families are struggling with the cost of living, we'll give you a full rebate on your council tax. Imagine what that would have done for struggling families if we could have written off their council tax bills instead of constantly writing off debts for businesses, developers and landlords. For the many, not the few. Sorry, I know that phrase can't be used anymore by Labour. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Klein.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. This council is writing off £230 million of bad debts. £230 million. This at a time when we're asking people to pay more to get less during a cost of living crisis. The revised budget settlement may mean the benefits maximisation scheme is safe for now, but how can you look at some of our most vulnerable people in the eye, knowing that this Labour Council, which has been in charge of the city's finances for 13 years, has also wasted at least £165 million of council taxpayers' money on failed schemes, dodgy deals and incompetent decisions? I can't look those people in the eye, which is why I'll be voting against the budget tonight. Liverpool, a city where the crisis of one day is obliterated into the catastrophe of the next. Figures are bandied around, but it's real people who suffer, whether it's the £16 million wasted after failing to renew the energy contract, the failure to collect £4.6 million of Section 106 money to improve our communities, or the £3.2 million of the government for the government commissioners and the Cunard's revolving door of interim staff and consultants. Tens of millions of pounds wasted as a direct result of your incompetence. And while all this is happening, Lord Mayor, we're spending £2 million on a one-off music show, ironically taking place at a venue which owes the council £7 million. You really couldn't make some of this stuff up, could you? We have the worst recycling rate in the country. So what did you do? You introduced a green bin tax, and now our rate of 23.5% is lower than it was 12 months ago. Well done. £10 million a year to clean up litter. And we all know the issues of illegal parking, unless, of course, you're a Labour councillor. So as I've said continuously in this chamber since I was elected, and I'll keep on saying it, let's recruit an army of community wardens who can issue on-the-spot fines to fly tippers, litter lads, people whose dogs foul, and to those selfish drivers who park wherever they want because they know they're not going to get caught. It's time to get tough and to make people pay. Like everyone in this room, Lord Mayor, I despise this Tory government and everything it stands for. But you know, and they keep quiet about this, there are actually a number of similarities between this Tory government and this Labour council. Both have been in power for 13 years. Both have had leaders helping the police with their inquiries. Both have been embroiled in multiple scandals, mostly resulting from their incompetence and corruption. Both refuse to accept responsibility for anything that's happened on their watch. Both think by changing the person at the top, the electorate will forgive and forget. But the people of Liverpool won't forgive the incompetence or forget the shameful practices which have embarrassed our city. In conclusion, Lord Mayor, this May will see Labour kicked out of office as people realise that it's only the Liberal Democrats, only the Liberal Democrats as they have done before, Lord Mayor, as they have done before, who can save our city and ensure best value for the council taxpayers of Liverpool. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mitchell.
I mean, first of all, Lord Mayor, can I add my personal best wishes to you and Ros for the fantastic service. And on a personal level, the support you gave me as a Hillsborough survivor and the support you've given to all the families over many, many years till we got our form of justice. So thank you. Wow, Councillor Makinson really went for one there, didn't he? And I was being really chilled, feeling really relaxed and chilled, and I wasn't going to get annoyed or angry or anything, and now I am. So I was going to be really, really magnanimous. And I'll say those of us who have sat on the Finance and Resources Select Committee all year have worked really, really well together. And that included the Labour members, it included Councillor Alan Gibbons, myself, Tom Lawrence when he was there. Andrew, you were there most of them. And we worked really, really focused on actually not looking for the least worst solution to this problem. We were looking at how can we generate the most amount of money that protects the services. And you know what? I'm not sitting over there, Andrew. I'm sitting right behind you. And I'm personally offended at the suggestion that somehow people in this chamber have colluded to bring down the working class of this city. It's absolute nonsense. And I feel offended by that. We need to work together to protect the most vulnerable, the most at need, the most under pressure. And many of us work in that field every day in our lives, every day of our lives. In this Finance Resources Select Committee, we absolutely looked at the budget, and one of the early ones, and we looked at that first £7 million welfare cuts, and we said we can't stomach that. I asked the question, how much if we went up to 4.99, which you've just opposed, Richard, 4.99, how much that will give us? It was circa £4 million. And I asked Mayor Anderson, if we did that, would she ring fence that towards the welfare cut? And she did. And they have. That has been done and supported. We challenged, Alan Gibbons and I were most robust in challenging the reserves issue, most robust about challenging. And I was worried at one stage it'd be double the figure that came our way. But that was a genuine worry. So do you know what? I don't want, we should all of us, and everyone in this chamber and everyone who sits here wants to defend. Sometimes it's really easy, and this is shock you. I've wanted to score political points in my life in the past as well. I've done it. Now is not the night for doing that. The message should be that this council is absolutely doing everything it possibly can to support those most vulnerable, those most in need, and that's why I will be supporting this budget tonight.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I could also go on about Labour wasting money on failed schemes such as foundation homes. I could go on about fiascos like the recent energy bill waste of money, but as usual, the Lib Dems have got there first, so I don't need to go on cover that ground again. I actually just wanted to make a general point. I have to say that I, as a councillor for the last 9 years, found it kind of depressing that every year we're just delivering a cuts budget and looking at what we can stop doing. I just feel like it's such a wasted opportunity. We need an approach which values local government, the green approach to invest in a Green New Deal. We could be delivering so much more. We could be improving our city. We could be, expanding jobs within the city, insulating homes, and delivering a Green New Deal. We would be the people to do that. But unfortunately, we've just had to put up with an austerity government for this entire period of time. It's such a missed opportunity. But the most important reason I stood up at this point in the meeting was to actually correct my previous omission, which is just to thank Councillor Brown for his unbelievable service as a councillor for the Green Party and also for the residents of Greenbank Ward. You probably will never meet a more hardworking, principled and knowledgeable councillor, and he's an absolutely thoroughly decent bloke, and it's been a pleasure working for him. So thank you very much, Lawrence.
Councillor Parsons. Thank you.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I thought you were doing all that side first. Thank you very much. I want to talk in support of Mayor Anderson's budget, and particularly I want to talk in support of the removal of one of the proposals and saving our one-stop shops. Our one-stop shops currently deliver over 9 sites at the heart of communities in this city where people need them most. In the first half of 22 to 23, there were over 15,000 visits to our one-stop shops by residents. Residents getting support with issues such as benefits, property pool and housing, landlord licensing, parking permits. The highest volume of those visits was from people aged over 65 years of age, and over 25% of those who use the service identified as having a physical or mental health condition, people that really needed to be able to access a face-to-face service, a front door for this council. As elected members, as well as being a voice for our communities, we also, while staying out of operational issues, are a voice for our workforce. And I want to pay tribute to the one-stop shop staff who, despite the stress of a budget proposal that put their own livelihoods at risk, worked with us and our union colleagues to look at ways to work differently or suggest alternative proposals, and all the time putting their own worries aside to do the best for the people of this city. They are an absolute credit to this council. It's no surprise to any of us that the consultation told us that residents value our one-stop shops and want services based in the heart of their local communities. We all want that too. Removing this proposal retains the infrastructure and skilled staff that we need to build a better model of neighbourhood working in the coming years. I'm absolutely proud to support this budget because despite years of austerity and despite cuts to local government finance, this Labour administration asked residents what was important to them. We have listened to our residents and we have delivered for our residents, and we will continue to do so.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I very rarely contribute in full council, so please bear with me. I'm not going to go on for a long time anyway. I'm going to surprise you now. I actually supported every word that Councillor Makinson made. I never thought I'd ever say that in my life, but he was right in everything what he said. I want to come back to the mayoral fund. That's what I use a lot in Wavertree Ward, with many vulnerable people who suffer from fuel poverty and food poverty and further finances for general living standards. Without this mayoral fund, there are many people who would suffer drastically without this fund. I give this money to Wavertree Children's Centre and they use it specifically for food poverty, for children, for families, for adults, and furthermore, it's not necessarily children, it's individuals that come into the Children's Centre for help and support, which I deal with. Those people would drastically suffer, and to say that Labour have listened is absolutely disgraceful, because these are the people at the lower echelons of society that don't have a say, that need this help, that don't understand what councillors do, right? And I feel that I'm ashamed that this is under pressure, the mayoral neighbourhood fund. As a Labour representative, as I was absolutely proud of this intervention. I'm still proud of this intervention, but it's now being taken away. How can you justify that?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mumby.
I'm proud that we've managed to protect the most vulnerable in the city, and I think it's important that we've done that. I don't usually resort to religious metaphors, but I think they're wholly appropriate in dealing with some of the issues before this chamber. I mean, the first one relates to the two amendments from the Gang of Three. Essentially, this is arguing over how many angels dance on the head of a pin. The amendments do not achieve what they say they do. They do not protect anything beyond the next financial year, which the Labour budget already does. So you're just wrong. I am, however, glad to see a sinner saved. The Green Party, who've been proposing cuts to M&F year after year after year in budgets, are now deciding to support it. Great, well done. Thank you. But I want to come on really to the main point, and I hope I don't have to declare a prejudicial interest here as someone whose first name is Stephen, but I would say to the Lib Dems that he who's without sin casts the first stone. I agree with Councillor Radford that it's an index to their complete bankruptcy in more ways than one, that they haven't proposed an amendment. But actually, they haven't really proposed anything to this city for years. But what we do know, despite the hypocrisy of some of their councillors, is they have left us a big legacy. Parklands. How much is that still costing us? That was your administration. I mean, Councillor Kushner rightly referred to the boot estate, which cost us a fortune. Some of the areas you laid waste to by the total mismanagement of housing market renewal and the loss of revenue to the city. The contracts you entered into for a number of areas of the city on PFIs are costing us today. And that's before we even get on to the fact that the citizens of the city have lost about £1,200 per year per person because of the cuts you and the Tories put in together in government. Shame on you. How dare you talk about other people? Now, has Labour made mistakes? Of course we had. I'd be amazed if we hadn't, facing the desperate challenges that we face as a city. Of course we have. But we also built new schools. We put new play areas into parks. We've done loads for this city in the most difficult circumstances I can imagine. And I'm proud of our record. Thank you, my Lord Mayor, but clearly the truth hurts. I think we can be proud of our record, not uncritically proud, and I've certainly criticised my colleagues in the group at times and in the past over mistakes we've made, but I think we've done a good job for this city in defending it in the most difficult of periods. I really wish some of the colleagues opposite who pluck figures out of the air but have suffered from severe amnesia about their own record had ever come forward with constructive proposals. So of course this budget isn't perfect. It's horrible to have to put this before the city, but we are, if you like, putting up a dented shield for the people of this city. And one of the reasons, incidentally, why I think the perhaps well-intentioned, I'll say, amendments are fundamentally misconceived is that they invite a longer tenure for the commissioners, and by reducing the reserves, which may be challenged, they reduce our ability to invest capital in the future, which will save us money. So they're not thought through. They don't protect the city in the future. So I support our budget and oppose the amendments. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mumby. Councillor Allen Gibbons.
Every time we face a budget full of unpalatable cuts, the Labour leadership in this city jabs a finger. It's them over there, it's the government, it's not us. Everybody knows the Tory cuts have drained the city of resources. After the last 13 years, we really don't need reminding of that. It's been grinding, it's driven our people down. We have a commissioner or two that we could send to this failing government after all. Well, that's only half the story. Where does the responsibility lie for writing off £230 million of debt? Is this council leadership misruling Liverpool for a similar period the Tories have been misruling the country? What about over £1 million in council tax not collected from landlords? The 30 months rent not collected on the Beetham Plaza car park, the £1.2 million written off with the Music Experience Britain, £7 million owed by the ACC, the land given away to property developers. This waste, this repeated waste, lies at Labour's door. And what about the energy bill fiasco? Again, it's down to the benches opposite. One cabinet member had the cheek to say it was impossible to foresee the problem. Really? Were there no checks and balances, no studying of the energy market? And answer this, why was this council unique in having that disaster when not one other council in the country did? That waste, why just here? The spiritual home of citizens' money pouring down the drain. After all this, we get a lecture about the need to deliver a balanced legal budget. Well, it would have been so much easier, wouldn't it, if our starting point had been an open, transparent, well-run council. The top thing that our residents wanted in that survey, not one that slavishly voted against an independent inquiry into the Beautiful Ideas Company. Or if we didn't have an entitled Labour establishment that went to officers to quash parking tickets against the rules of the PCN process. Our residents are facing a 5% council tax rise in return for deteriorating services. They don't get a ticket to ride. We're against the cuts, Labour candidates will say in May. They put out leaflets saying it. So why do you pass them on so meekly without a squeak? Where are the meetings, the protests, the rallies? The last time I remember a Labour-led attempt to put pressure on the government was a march back in 2011. That's 12 years ago. 12 years a slave to Tory cuts by some people who are little more than red Tories. The Mayor this week said we can't go on like this. Well, I agree. We can't go on returning a wasteful council that turns its back on transparency and responsibility. We will be voting against this budget.
I'm just, Councillor Knibb.
Thanks a lot, mate. What Councillor Gibbons has said is, I mean, yeah, what Councillor Gibbons has said is some of the stuff I was going to say. Can I just touch on briefly about the reserves and legally how much have we got to have in reserves? Now, as far as I know, legally you don't have to have reserves of that amount of money, or if any amount of money. And the point I'm trying to make today, and I understand some of the hard work that's gone through of the opposition here, but there is stuff still there. And to increase the council tax by 4.99 again this year, you might say we are going to protect the most vulnerable, but we're not protecting the people out there. There's people out there who've worked all their lives and had a separate pension, private pension, who are paying tax and paying the council tax on that pension because they're not getting no discredit on it, not a penny. So they've got to pay that amount of money. If you just look at what is going on in society today, I'm not blaming I'm blaming the Tory government. Let me make that perfectly clear. But if you just look at what our people are suffering today, if you look at, and when I explained this last time in the council chamber on the budget, people were laughing at it, but it's a fact. You know, beans 17% increase, powder to 10, 15%. Everything's going up by 17, 18, 19%. And these are our people who we're protecting or getting told we're protecting, who are going to have to pay this money. On top of that, if you look at anybody that's lucky enough to have a social house, being a social housing, in Taurus alone, they're going to increase the rents this year by £7 for people that's already in there. And anybody who's lucky enough or unlucky enough to get a house allocated, that's going to increase £11 a week. So all of a sudden, you're seeing houses, what we believed in social housing, which you, Lord Mayor, was one of the people who built 5,000 council properties in this city. All of a sudden, we're getting ordinary working class people who can't afford it because of the rents that they're getting charged by so-called social landlords. They're getting charged by that. So I just want to know, and honestly, I'm not having a go at anybody. I just want to know why we've got to increase the council tax by 4.99% when we've got enough money in reserves not to increase the council tax by that amount of money. I don't know, honestly, I just don't understand it, why we're doing that. We just don't need to do it. And I'll finish on this, Lord Mayor. There's earmark reserves, Mayor's hardship funds, 542,000. Mayoral development funds, 379,000. Elected Mayor City funds, equalities, 305,000. City fund awards,
235,000. Now, the mayor's going. The leader's going to take over in the cabinet, but the mayor's going. What are we doing with that money? It's still there. It's still in reserves. We're not spending it because it's gone. So finally, Lord Mayor, sorry, it's just been said that we're taking money from the Mayor's Neighbourhood Fund. And what does that do? Well, we all know what we do with that. We give it to the most vulnerable people in the city. We give it to them. We make sure that if the kids can't go in a youth club no more because the Tory governments have cut the money, we try and give them some money, like in the Gems up in Croxted. We've given them some money to make sure the kids come off the streets in Croxted. We've done that in Norris Green. I've done it with Barry Kushner and Liz Parsons. We've made money available for what these Tories have cut back. But now we're cutting back when there's no need to make these cuts. There's no need to make some of the cuts, sorry. And I've just said to you, I found a way. I believe that there's money available out there. And I honestly believe we should not put the money into reserves while we've got the people of our city suffering so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Before we move on to the next speaker, I'm going to show my ignorance about it, how often I actually go to pictures, which is never. I think the last one was, I don't know, probably Robin knows. Councillor Gibbons, it's pointed out to me that because it was a film you mentioned, you made reference to a film that talked about slavery. Is that what you meant? I'm not sure, because it was the film as read. Hang on. There's been concern from people because of it. I didn't understand it because I don't know what the film's all about. I'm only asking for an explanation because it seems to be it was a film about slavery and you equated that to the council. I just want for you to explain that. And if it was a withdrawal, if you would, if you meant it that way, but you explain first.
If that gives it, I was pointing out
Please.
12 years a slave to cuts. It was a play on words. But of course, if using the phrase about slavery was an abomination, the transportation of enslaved people. So quite happy to withdraw that reference.
Thank you. It's just short, as I said, how often I go to the pictures. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. First of all, I have to say I have to disagree with Councillor Mitchell's rant and also the comments made by Steve Mumby, but I do agree with what Councillor Knibb has said. Why are we increasing the council tax this year of all years? Make no bones about it, this is a despicable budget brought on by the Tory government. But I have to say that this Labour group in Liverpool say they care about the vulnerable. And I would say you don't care enough. You threatened that you were heading down the route to abolish council tax support, the council tax support scheme, the discretionary relief for foster carers, customer access and the benefits maximisation team. But now, after you received a settlement from the government, you've magically said, oh, we don't need to do away with these services. These services that you were threatening Liverpool residents with goes to help to support those most vulnerable. So why do you threaten them in the first place? Okay. Also, your budget states that adult social care will be cut by 11 million. Again, children and young people, 19 million. But hold on a minute. You say you care about the vulnerable. You don't care enough. Why are you cutting services which are going to have a negative impact on our elderly? I mean, I get quite a lot of phone calls at the moment from children who are concerned for their parents' welfare. You know, that things are not up to standard and you want to cut the budget by 11 million for elderly people's social services. Also, you're planning to cut the neighbourhood fund by 8 million this year. Next year is going to rise to 9.4 million. And in 25 to 26, how do you want to cut the budget again for neighbourhoods by 10 million? I mean, why are we deciding on these cuts to go on for 3 years that are going to affect our most vulnerable? M&F funding. Now, M&F funding is quite important in my ward. It helps the community, it helps families, it helps the elderly with the befriending services who sometimes don't speak to anybody else for 3 weeks. All of this neighbourhood funding, I guarantee you, I use every single penny. And no, I don't waste mine on skits. I know some people like them. But I put my money where people are, in providing services, that are crucial to them, where they connect with their communities, where they connect with neighbours, old friends. So that neighbourhood funding, you want to cut it by 5% this year. And overall, in the next 3 years, you want to cut it by 20%. I think this is totally unfair. This would not have happened had this Labour group not wasted hundreds of millions. And let me remind you, Councillor Mumby, that the government, yes, hello to you too, the government cleared hundreds of millions of debts in 2018. And now this council has debts of over 800 million. So had you not wasted that money, you could have given people a no rise this year on their council tax, and you failed. So you failed to protect the residents. People are telling me that they're working and they're struggling to pay the bills, and they're worried about that council tax. And these people now, they're working, but they class themselves as a working poor. So you don't seem to care. You don't care enough. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Small.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. I want to speak in support of Labour's budget and against the First Amendment. The fundamental issue here, Lord Mayor, is the structural impact of 13 years of Tory cuts. And it's not just to the council budget, it's to things like with welfare reform and other cuts that this city has faced. £1.3 billion over 13 years. That's what the Tories have done to this city. And it's against this backdrop we have to look at this budget. And Ros alluded in her speech earlier to what that first Labour cabinet faced in 2010. And anyone who sat round that table and saw what happened with the in-year area-based grant cut, with the scrapping of building schools for the future, the callousness, the vindictiveness of what that did. But the Liberal Democrats were part of that coalition government. And it might have been 13 years ago, but those cuts and what the Lib Dems did 13 years ago has been locked in to that budget process. And we are still seeing the effects of that today. So, Lord Mayor, the starting point of this budget isn't the starting point that I think anyone in this room would have chosen to go on. But the budget is the best budget that we have based on the cards that we have been dealt in this city. And it protects libraries, it protects children's centres, it protects leisure centres, it protects the council tax support service, it protects the benefits maximisation team, it protects the most vulnerable people in this city, and it protects council jobs and council terms and conditions. And that's why we should be supporting this budget. That's why we should be proud to support in this budget. And moving on to the First Amendment, last year I stood at the back of this chamber after the Budget Council meeting with Councillor Gibbons and Councillor Hinks and Councillor Rothery, the then leader of the Liverpool Community Independents. And we sat there and we debated, and we were filmed by the Echo, and we debated this budget. And the point that I made to the community independents at the time was that they had abdicated their responsibility. They'd opposed the budget, but they'd not come up with a meaningful amendment. And that is the same tonight. This amendment is not a meaningful amendment. It does nothing for the people of this city, for our residents this year. It talks about next year, and it opens the door, quite irresponsibly, it opens the door to the threat of more government intervention, because we will go lower with our reserves. We will go lower than what SIPFA recommend. We'll go lower than that. It's a lawful budget, but we will go lower than that recommendation, and that jeopardises the progress that we have made, the journey of improvement that we have made, and it opens the door to more intervention. But when I stood at the back of the chamber a year ago, Councillor Gibbons talked about a mass programme of political education, of rallies, of support, of going out in the community, of having meetings about what their budget would be. It would be an alternative budget. It would be a levelling up budget. Councillor Hinks talked about selling the Cunard building for £60 million and putting that into services. Where's your amendment that deals with that? Why haven't you moved this as an amendment? Because if you aspire to run this city, Sorry, I apologise, Lord Mayor. It was a rhetorical question that I was asking. The point that I wanted to make was that any party that aspires to run this city and become the administration of this city after the all-out elections, and that goes for the Liberal Democrats, the Community Independents, the Greens, the Liberals, they have to say what they would do as an alternative. And no party, apart from Labour, has said what they would do as an alternative. And that, Lord Mayor, is abdicating responsibility.
Thank you, Councillor Small. Councillor McAllister Bell.
Thank you very much. First of all, can I just associate with some of my comments with the councillors who are leaving, the Mayor and the Lord Mayor. And what I'm going to say casts no aspersions over the character of individuals. My brother was too in Paris and shared some of the experience that you did. And he was touched to hear you share those stories. Ros, I'm sorry that you're leaving. You have chaired the Select Health Committee with distinction. Your knowledge has been, to someone serving the first term, has been inspiring. And it is a weaker place that you're not going to be here. And that goes for many. You know, they say you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Well, Mayor Joe Anderson may have only had one term, but that one term was enough. You have served this city with distinction, and I put my thanks to you from the residents of Mossley Hill. While some will disagree with you politically, there have been no tougher times in this city, and we will be in your gratitude. So I would associate my comments with them. But that doesn't take away from where we are. The fact that we have had a council of chaos. It's an 80s revival we could have done without. It has seen one councillor get off with as many parking tickets as houses were built despite promises. That is a statement of truth. There's a paper that puts out, Labour listens. I'm really sorry to say this, and I'm not saying it's a political point score, but Labour is in denial in this city, because you have to look. You can talk about Tory cuts all you want, but here's a reality check. We have been let down by decisions made, by money wasted, and that can't come back. That missed opportunity, those people have been let down. And I have had people who are Labour voters, people that you want to vote you into leadership, who have said they had the audacity to put this through my door and not mention one of the things that they have done. And they're trying to rewrite history. It's the biggest sense of propaganda that has hit the city's doorsteps in hundreds of years. And that is on you. I would also like to put out, I was trying to search, because it shouldn't say Labour listens, it should say Labour in denial. And I was trying to put into words, but I couldn't think of it as adequately or as adequate as one of your former members who resigned at the beginning of this meeting, who said, and I quote, "Yes, Tory cuts have blistered the flesh from the bones of local government, but the Liverpool Labour has ground those bones to dust and to put members' interest above those of its citizens." I couldn't speak better than that. I wouldn't give this council of chaos 5 more minutes in a position of leadership, never mind 4 more years, because our city can't afford it. I had one Labour councillor point to the Echo headline that said failed and said, "We have not failed." What a state of denial. If you've not failed, I guess you've just found 250 million ways to let the people of Liverpool down.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have, there we are, Councillor Kemp, please.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and I want to make it clear right from the start that we shall be voting against this disastrous budget tonight. But there is just one way. I haven't just got it, you know. There's only one way in which there's only one way in which we might be persuaded perhaps to support this budget, if you utter the words that the people of Liverpool deserve to hear from you, that the people of Liverpool need to hear from you, and these are: Labour apologise for the way we have run this city. My Lord Mayor, we hear a lot today, don't we, about £500 million worth of Tory cuts. But for every pound that the Tories have cost us, there's another pound that the Labour Party have lost us. We knew that there's at least £165 million worth went straight out of the door when we started accounting for the Joe Anderson years here. You know where they are. The Tarm Academy that produced no jobs, the planning fees that weren't collected, a whole series of things. £13.5 million overspent on Lime Street on a £50 million scheme that's made the traffic worst in this city. The foundations housing. So many things that add up to 165 million and counting. And then 238 million, I think it is, that we're going to write off. And all at a time when this city council is absolutely unique. There is only one council in the country with 5 commissioners, a position that's been accepted by the Labour Party nationally and the Labour Party in this city. They're costing us £2 million a year, plus £3 million for improvements, plus £110,000 a month for interims and consultants and all those people who've had to come in to help us sort out the mess. My Lord Mayor, a famous president of the United States, and I was hoping I'd speak before Councillor Mumby, because I was going to let him say who it was, because he might have got a joke into his one speech. But a famous president said, there will be no whitewash in the White House. Well, I tell you now, there's metaphorical whitewash not only flowing through this council chamber tonight, but in every leaflet. Incidentally, local campaigner Tony Herms, never heard of it before, has been adopted as Labour candidates in Churchbourne, as well as Penny Lane, by the look of it. So, my Lord Mayor, we're left in a situation where we will not support the 2 amendments that have been moved tonight, not because we don't have some sympathy for them, but there's no point in voting for them because the Labour Party aren't going to accept them, and we will end up voting against the budget as a whole. I hope that the Labour Party will show some contrition in the way they conclude these debates. I think we have the new Labour leader still left to speak. Because unless we do that, we cannot draw a line under the Joe Anderson era, which has so besmirched our city and which has cost our city so much in reputational terms, in development terms, in investment terms, and in a failure to focus the key services of this council on the needs of those adults who need our service and children. We've talked today about fairly small amounts of money being cut. What's happened for the last 13 years is a total failure to revise and renew our social services because the demography of this city has changed, people have got older, and we have failed to rise to the challenge of those vital services. My Lord Mayor, I wait with interest to see whether the Labour Party in this city have the guts to apologise for losing every bit as much money as the Tories have cost us. I wait for them to apologise for their incompetence and the corruption of our citizens. My Lord Mayor, I suggest and suspect I will be waiting in vain.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hinks.
Yes, Lord Mayor, thanks a lot. Basically, I represent, along with Jane and Ellie, one of the most, if not the most deprived ward in the city. And to take M&F money, whether it be 5% this year, 5% next year, we are taking vital money away from that particular area. I speak for Everton, that area. And to take that much money away would be an absolute travesty for the area. Only a couple of days ago, I took the decision to take our party politics away and to go and talk and to go and meet with the Labour councillors. And we've agreed my M&F money, my part of M&F money, that we are going to put it into the most deprived projects in the ward. And now, between the 3 of us, we've now approved that £1,000 will go to Jane. What was the £1,000 that we said we agreed? To go towards China Street Park. There you go. We also agreed that a youth facility in Everton, a much needed youth facility, would give my part of it. So, Lord Mayor, it is vitally important that we keep the 5% and you vote for the amendment, because we've been told by the councillors over there that where are we going to get the money from? We can take it from the reserves, the £1.1 million that we can take it into the reserves and given it to the M&F money. I'd like to ask a question, Chair, if you, Lord Mayor, if you could, and with the budget in place, can we get reassurance that there will be no redundancies this year with this budget? Because there will be people really concerned within the council over the redundancies, and we would seek for reassurance that there would be no redundancies. I just want to finish that Councillor Small is right. We did debate it at the back of the chamber last year, and we debated over what we could have saved. We could have. He's quite right. We spoke about the £50 million for Cunard. We also spoke about the 12% stakeholding that we have in Liverpool Airport. That could have been sold off and put towards the budget. And we also spoke about the freehold that could have yielded £3 to £4 million. On a select committee, Councillor Small, I'll rectify you, that we were told we couldn't do it. And that's why we didn't put an amendment in. So please get your facts right. Okay, get your facts right. Lord Mayor, I ask for this amendment to be supported.
Thank you, Councillor Hinks. We now move on to the final speaker before we move on to a right to respond. Councillor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I've looked really carefully at this amendment about Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme and discretionary housing, household support fund. The council officers have been in discussion with DWP officials in respect of this proposal to use household support fund 4 for Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme. Following these discussions, the DWP approved the use of HSF, but made it explicit that the funding should only be used for the purposes set out in the scheme's criteria. This criteria specifies that the fund should only be used for food and fuel costs. Any divergence from that risks the funding being clawed back by government. So it is not true that the 1.1 million of HSF, as you had hoped, would be able to be redistributed to other areas of need. We do agree, as you say, that this is a period of extreme economic uncertainty. The coalition and the Tory government took a deliberate decision to bring in more than a decade now of austerity. And as part of that, they brought in the Welfare Reform Act, as we know, in 2012. This act required each council to set up a local welfare scheme, ours called the Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme, but only funding that scheme for a couple of years. So that's all we had of them. But we in Liverpool decided to keep funding our scheme and to try our best, unlike the Tories, to protect our citizens through this decade plus now of austerity and now the cost of living crisis. LCSS, our provision, is not being cut back, is being partly funded for a change, finally guaranteed for 12 months by the Tories. The Tories have caused the pain and pressure on our residents, so the Tories should therefore be expected to take some of the strain. So we can and we should use 1.1 of Household Support Fund for our local welfare scheme. Therefore, we will do just that. It is worth noting that since 2015, we have funded from our own budget here in this council at least £33 million worth of funding for Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme, plus the topping up of the discretionary housing payment, plus the mayoral hardship fund. I'd also like to just I'd like to say thank you, basically, big style, to the benefit maximisation team, who are, as we know, outstanding in the work that they do in the city year on year. And under pressure, they have continued that work. So I'm delighted that we're able to keep that team in place. But just to conclude, our city and this Labour Council has a proud history of working together, tackling poverty and protecting and supporting our citizens. And this budget will continue to do just that. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We now come to the end of the debate, and Mayor Anderson, would you like to respond to both the motion and the amendment?
Going to defer to Councillor Robinson, if that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, thanks very much.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, and certainly as much as a lot of this debate depresses me, I think it actually crystallises the very stark choice that the people of this city face in May. Because here we've got a serious administration with a serious plan to do the right thing in really difficult circumstances by the people of the city. And unfortunately, an opposition who don't actually want to bring forward a practical alternative and want to play more political games with all of this. Because if I first turn to the amendments, dearie me, oof, you want to save Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme that we've already saved. That's a bit of a puzzle, isn't it?
And correction,
more,
Lord Mayor.
More fundamentally, no.
Can I just point of order? What is that thing? My problem is that they're repeatedly saying something about our amendments that's not true. It's not true what they're saying. It's just a. Look, they can.
No, and thank you, Lord Mayor, because the practical reality.
What I'm saying, Lord Mayor, and I've said it before, is you let them say what they want unchallenged. Yet over here, we have to put up with heckling throughout our speeches, which they don't have to. That's all. It's just different rules. That's all. Okay.
Lord Mayor, will they give way? Will they give way?
I don't think I said you were being dishonest. I would never say that. Sorry, I never said it. So how can you withdraw something you didn't say? All I'm saying is, if you let Councillor Crone make his point, then that would be fair, wouldn't it? Why are you standing up? Why is he standing up? It's aggressive, isn't it?
So as I heard your statement, you suggested that the Lord Mayor was being political in his management of this meeting. And I think that is sorry, I am speaking. I think that is the comment that you're being asked to withdraw. Otherwise, we'll deal with the matter outside of the meeting.
So can I just clarify? I didn't say that the Lord Mayor was being dishonest. Did I?
I think I've made it clear. I think what you said was you suggested that the Lord Mayor was being political in their management of the meeting.
Yeah.
And that is the comment you are being asked to withdraw.
So what you're asking me to do?
So, as I underheard it, and I don't believe you've as yet denied it, you suggested that the mayor, Lord Mayor, in the way they are managing this meeting, was acting in a political manner and not impartially. That is the statement that you are being asked to withdraw by the Lord Mayor.
I withdraw that statement, Lord Mayor.
No, we're summing up the debate, and I hope we're resetting the clock as well, actually. So, as long as we're not going to finish with a hooter, are we? But there you go. And it all started so nice this evening, didn't it? But no, the practical reality with the Liverpool Citizen Support Scheme, we are protecting it, and residents of this city that need it will see no difference. But the bit that also depresses me is it's always about dipping into reserves, always on the never, never. But the practical reality, when we look at the maths of all of this, the practical reality is actually, it's not just 1.1 million you'd be using from reserves, you would have to repay it again next year. So it's more like 2.2 million that it cumulatively cost us. But just as Councillor Small said, whether we like this or not, this is the truth. We are at the advised minimum level. Whilst this council is on its improvement journey, and I'm confident that that will end on time in June of next year, effectively, if we took this option, what we'd be saying to the commissioners, we're not responsible, we can't be trusted, stay as long as you like. And this administration is not prepared to do that. And if there was a serious opposition right across this chamber, there'd be an alternative budget. This has taken months of blood, sweat and tears. Where's the alternative? It's not there. And more fundamentally, because we've got a plan as this administration, tomorrow we start the budget making process for 24-25 because we take our role responsibly. Because at the end of the day, we have to remember the backdrop to this budget. After 13 years of grinding Tory austerity, and I have to remind the Liberal Democrats who put that government into power, we are now at a situation where almost every year we lose £500 million as a city compared to what we would have received in real terms in 2010. It's almost a wonder we've got a council at all. And I get really angry about the way the government continues to operate. When you think about how we continue to get single year settlements, days before Christmas, we're still waiting for a public health grant to be announced. I believe it feels as if this government is trying to trip up the whole of the local government sector across this country. And when you think about how we've had to find the thick end of £50 million of cuts, really, really tough stuff. This was always going to be about how we set the least worst budget that was possible for this city. So I'm very proud of the hard work of this group and this administration, saving those key anti-poverty measures, things like the council tax support scheme, one of the most comprehensive of any core city in this country, saving that citizen support scheme, the discretionary housing payments, our cherished benefits maximisation service that not many other comparable authorities offer to the same levels that we do, and of course saving our one-stop shops. That has taken a hell of a lot of hard work. And I'll conclude with a few thanks, because it hasn't just dropped out of the sky. We have to thank Ian as our interim Section 151 officer and his whole team who've worked so hard around this. I also want to thank our trade unions who've always been really principled, but really practical partners in getting to this process tonight. But most of all, I want to thank Mayor Joanne, the Cabinet, and the whole of the Labour group in pulling together what I honestly believe is the best possible budget we can set in the current circumstances. So I'm proud we'll be rejecting those amendments and we'll be voting through the best possible budget in extremely difficult circumstances. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, we will now be voting on the First Amendment.
Okay. I think we got the message. Okay, I'll read out councillors' names in order, and if you can indicate for or against or abstaining from, and the first vote is on the First Amendment. So, Councillor Banks, Councillor Barrington, Councillor Lila Bennett, Councillor Ruth Bennett, Councillor Berry, Councillor Brandt, Councillor Chris Brown, Councillor Lawrence Brown, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Klein, Councillor Conception, Councillor Connor, Councillor Corbett, Councillor Crofts, Councillor Crone, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Harry Doyle, Councillor Dunn, Councillor East, Councillor Gibbons, Councillor Rodsgladden, Councillor Gorst, Councillor Hanratty, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Hinnigan, Councillor Hurley, Councillor Juarez, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Key, Councillor Knibb, Councillor Knight, Councillor Kushner, Councillor Billy Lake, Councillor Fraser Lake, Councillor Lavelle, Councillor Logan, Councillor Andrew Makinson, Councillor Liz Makinson, Councillor Marrott, Councillor McAllister Bell, Councillor McIntyre, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Maloney, Councillor Mumby, Councillor Murray, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Parsons, Councillor Pitchers, Councillor Prince, Councillor Radford, Councillor Rasmussen, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Robertson Collins, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Rothery, no. Councillor Shortall, Councillor Simon, Councillor Small, Councillor Smeeder, Councillor Smith, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Story, Councillor Sung, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Toolan, Councillor Walker, Councillor Wood, Councillor Woodhouse, and Lord Mayor. No, abstain. Yeah. Well, that vote's been cast. Councillor Small, please accept my apologies before it's only to shut up.
I should have been a little bit more mannerly about it. The voting is for 14, against 54, with no abstentions. The amendment is lost.
So we move to vote on the second amendment, same process. Councillor Banks, Councillor Barrington, Councillor Lila Bennett, Councillor Ruth Bennett, Councillor Berry, Councillor Brandt, Councillor Chris Brown, Councillor Lawrence Brown, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Klein, Councillor Conception, Councillor Connor, Councillor Corbett, Councillor Crofts, Councillor Crone, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Harry Doyle, Councillor Dunn, Councillor East, Councillor Gibbons, Councillor Rosgladden, Councillor Gorst, Councillor Hanratty, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Hinnigan, Councillor Hurley, Councillor Juarez, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Key, Councillor Knibb, Councillor Knight, Councillor Kushner, Councillor Billy Lake, Councillor Fraser Lake, Councillor Lavelle, Councillor Logan, Councillor Andrew Makinson, Councillor Liz Makinson, Councillor Marrott, Councillor McAllister Bell, Councillor McIntyre, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Maloney, Councillor Mumby, Councillor Murray, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Parsons, Councillor Pitchers, Councillor Prince, Councillor Radford, Councillor Rasmussen,
Against.
Councillor Roberts, Councillor Robertson Collins, Councillor Robinson, Councillor Shortall, Councillor Simon, Councillor Small, Councillor Smeeder, Councillor Smith, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Story, Councillor Sung, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Toolan, Councillor Walker, Councillor Wood, Councillor Woodhouse.
The voting for the second amendment is for 14, against 53, with no abstentions. That amendment is lost. We'll now move on to the main.
Same again. Councillor Banks, Councillor Barrington, Councillor Lila Bennett, Councillor Ruth Bennett, Councillor Berry, Councillor Brandt, Councillor Chris Brown, Councillor Lawrence Brown, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Klein, Councillor Conception, Councillor Connor, Councillor Corbett, Councillor Crofts, Councillor Crone, Councillor Cummings, Councillor Harry Doyle, Councillor Dunn, Councillor East, Councillor Gibbons, Councillor Rosgladden, Councillor Gorst, Councillor Hanratty, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Hinks, Councillor Hinnigan, Councillor Hurley, Councillor Juarez, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Key, Councillor Knibb, Councillor Knight, Councillor Kushner, Councillor Billy Lake, Councillor Fraser Lake, Councillor Lavelle, Councillor Logan, Councillor Andrew Makinson, Councillor Liz Makinson, Councillor Marat, Councillor McAllister Bell, Councillor McIntyre, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Maloney, Councillor Mumby, Councillor Murray, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Parsons, Councillor Pitchers, Councillor Prince, Councillor Radford, Councillor Rasmussen. Too late. I think that's against.
Is that one of those quiz shows you wouldn't be allowed to change it?
Yeah. Councillor Rasmussen. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Robertson Collins. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Shortall. Councillor Simon. Councillor Small. Councillor Smeeder. Councillor Smith. Councillor Stevens. Councillor Story. Councillor Sung. Councillor Thomas. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Toolan. Councillor Walker. Councillor Wood. Councillor Woodhouse.
The voting is as follows: for 46, against 22, abstentions none. Therefore, the main motion is carried. Can I invite Mayor Joanne Anderson to move the recommendation relating to the statement of the annual pay policy of 2023-24?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I move that the annual pay policy statement for 23-24 as set out on the pages 433 and 455 of the agenda be approved?
My Lord Mayor, I'd just like, if I could, to ask the Mayor two questions.
Councillor, second. So I was going to give you an opportunity to other people, Dan.
Yeah.
Is there any other speakers?
Yeah,
Richard,
me.
anybody else?
This is seconded, is that? That's what you're doing, yeah, fine. Well, I'm not seconding it. So the two questions are this. Firstly, as I understand this statement, we are making no recommendations at all, no local policy. We're simply waiting to see what the NJC offer nationally to the unions concerned. And we have no thoughts at all about how that might be varied, how we might take into account Liverpool circumstances, etc. And the second question is, has this strategy been discussed with our trade unions, with JTUC in particular, whose national position is quite strident in terms of a very large pay increase at this time? And I must say that I cannot support this unless our unions have been properly consulted on it.
I think I can clarify. The council, like all councils, is under a duty to agree a pay policy statement with the contents enclosed here every year by the 31st of March, and that's why it's before this meeting. And it isn't intended to address the questions you have raised as part of that statement, but that obviously can be answered outside of this chamber, but is not a matter for this report.
I must say I disagree with the city solicitor on that. This is a pay statement. It's a pay statement which could include the things that I have suggested, but this council has chosen not to include it. So you may think that's right. I think it's wrong. Other councils, I can tell you now, discuss these things with their unions. They look at the localism of it as intended, but simply to say, we can't make a decision today. We're going to wait for people in London to decide what our strategy is, simply is not acceptable. And on that basis, unless the Labour Party change it and consult with the unions, we will vote against it.
I think the city solicitors answered you, but we always consult with the trade unions. I don't really know where you're coming from, Richard.
Is there any other speaker? All those for? Those against? Yeah, it's carried by a large majority. Constitutional review and amendments. Can I invite Councillor Ruth Bennett as chair of the Constitutional and Governance Committee to move the recommendation relating to the constitutional review and amendments as the report is set out on pages 456 to 478 of the agenda?
Can I move that the City Solicitor and Monitor Officer be granted delegated authority to make the changes to replace references to the Mayor and Cabinet with the Leader and Cabinet as set out as Appendix 1 to the report, and these to have effect from the 7th of May 23, with the current allocation of powers between the Council and the Executive to exercise the Council's local choice functions of Part 3 of the Constitution remain unamended, save with the replacement of any references to the Mayor to the Leader as set out at Appendix 2 to the report, and these to have effect from the 7th of May, and the content at Appendix 3 to the report be placed into non-constitutional documents to support the Council's governance but do not form part of the Constitution, with a further report to be brought forward setting out assurance arrangements for the drafting, review and member oversight of any such supporting documents.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Any other speakers? Councillor Gorse.
I can't vote to accept these proposals. I'm a councillor from one of the 7 wards that voted in favour of the committee model, so I must represent their feelings now. The committee model came second and the Leader model came last. The total cost to our residents for this consultation, this Mickey Mouse consultation, was £134,437. £134,437, and yet this is 3 times more than you're cutting to our neighbourhood fund. And yet this Labour administration is ignoring the costly result for the result that came last. As their national party is, it's completely anti-democratic.
Thank you, Councillor. All those for? As moved by Councillor Ruth Bennett. All those for? Any abstentions? That is also moved by a large majority. Thank you. Item 8, Scheme of Members' Allowances 2023-24. Can I invite Councillor Ruth Bennett as Chair of the Constitutional and Governance Committee to move a recommendation relating to the proposed scheme of member allowances for 2023-24. The report and proposed scheme are set out on pages 479 to 512. Councillor Bennett.
Can I move that, having considered the views of the Independent Remuneration Panel, the proposed scheme of members' allowances for 23-24 be approved, but that is subject to the officers and the Independent Remuneration Panel being requested to immediately review benchmarking data and seek member feedback relating to relevant special responsibility allowances and potential additional duty payments to members on planning and licensing committees, and a further report setting out options to be submitted to the Constitutional and Governance Committee and the annual council meeting, and officers and the Independent Remuneration Panel be requested to immediately review the arrangements for the provision of members' parking permits, and a further report setting out options to be submitted to the Constitutional and Governance Committee and the annual council meeting, and that the 5% uplift on allowances recommended by the Independent Remuneration Panel be rejected and the scheme approved as submitted.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? Councillor.
Quite honest, we've had independent reviews, and having another one, I don't have a problem. I think members of it will know I'm very concerned about the lack of recognition to ward members, but I also think the allowance of paid to chairmen is disproportionate. I chair the regional authority today and don't get any special responsibility allowance. I treat it as a privilege to do that role. But going to be honest, my Lord Mayor, I'd like a separate vote on part 2 of the motion, because I'm going to be honest, having a review over car parking permits is actually ridiculous. We have a lawful, sorry, did I say that? We have a legitimate parking scheme so people can attend to do their duties as councillors. It's straightforward. And whilst councillors do have got work and personal commitments and carry papers, then it's important they be able to access the town hall and the council buildings. So having an exercise to ask people what they know the answer to seems a total waste of money. I'm going to be honest, and I disagree with my colleagues from the Greens sometimes on this. Do we really think every councillor should be putting claims in to claim back the parking fees to attend a meeting to do their duty? I couldn't think of a greater waste of public money and administration. So I'd like a separate vote against part 2. Otherwise, I'll vote against the lot.
Councillor, as we said before, it is a bit late to move on the amendment. It's up to you what you want to, but what you want to vote on. Well, I've just looked at the mover.
So what the motion's actually saying is that we're getting a further report. It's coming back to the Constitutional and Governance Committee, and then it will come back. So those points can be represented when we have the report from the officers. Through that committee and at the AGM.
Are you happy with that then? So you'll have every opportunity to. Steve, I didn't think it was going to be medical tonight, and you'd agree with it all. But are you happy with? We go along with that. Thank you. I'm happy that you're happy. Can I then ask for those in favour? Are there any against? Any abstentions? That is carried by you. We now come on to the suspension of standing orders proposal to change date of annual council meeting. I received notice of a request to suspend standing order 6.1, which determines the date of the next forthcoming annual council meeting. Can we invite Councillor Ruth Bennett to move the motion standing in?
Can I move the standing order 6.1 be suspended and the date of the annual council meeting be agreed as Wednesday the 17th of May at 5 p.m.
Any other speakers?
Can I ask?
Exactly. You might agree. Councillor Kemp.
Yes, thank you. We're going to be in some difficulty dealing with this, and I talk about every member of the council, the next council anyway, not the ones who are leaving. We're going to go through major changes in the number of councillors there are, and we've seen the number of people who are leaving it, and more will be leaving it because of the election results, which they won't like. We're going through major changes in our system. We will have little notice of proportionalities, the ways that chairs will be sorted, a whole series of things which take time to agree inside the parties and time to agree between the parties in some cases. And this is going to be an incredibly short period, given that turmoil. I'm not necessarily against this, but what we've got is no justification for